Hello and welcome to another video on my rules run through and outline for the All Hell Let Loose 6mm World War II tabletop wargaming rules written by David Wasilewski. Previous videos I've looked at strategic counters, formations and units, activation orders and direct fire. And today's video is going to look at indirect fire, that is fire from mortars, self-propelled guns or formations of artillery. Now the mechanism for conducting indirect fire is very similar to the one for direct fire, except whereas direct fire you roll, you need a line of sight, you roll to hit, and then you roll to destroy. Indirect fire does not roll to destroy. Indirect fire simply causes disorder. So what this does is it slows down and breaks up an enemy's attack by preventing troops from firing and causing the opposition to reorder. And again, when attacking a position, then the artillery softens up the opposition. This doesn't mean to say that soldiers aren't being killed or vehicles aren't being destroyed. We're just representing that through the disorder mechanism rather than necessarily taking units off the table. Although if you are lucky, or if you get repeated rounds of artillery fire on the same target, then it is possible through accumulated disorder to remove a target. So what I'll do now is I'll take you through the indirect fire process, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with some units that fire indirectly that are actually attached as part of a formation. So here the Germans are defending a trench system with an infantry formation, and attached to that infantry formation we have a mortar team and we have a couple of self-propelled guns, a Hummel and a Wasp. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fire the Hummel and the Wasp at some of these American formations that are coming in on the table. I'm not going to bother rolling the activation, I'm just really running through the mechanism here. So in order to be able to fire integral units, you don't need a forward observer. All you need is a line of sight from any unit within the formation. And this is very important. It's different from a dedicated indirect fire formation such as these guns are over here. Because these units here are attached to this infantry formation, any of these units can effectively pass a message back and require them to fire. As long as the formation successfully activates with either a single activation or a double activation, then the indirect fire weapons can fire. It's important to note, if the formation gets a partial activation, indirect weapons cannot fire. That's one of the important points really around the activation. So we're going to assume here that this formation has successfully activated, and I'm going to fire these two weapons here. So we'll start with the Wasp, and in terms of indirect fire, we don't have any ranges. It's pretty much table, and that's just simply because of the range that these weapons kind of had. Again, with indirect weapons there are no range modifiers. However, what we do is impose a penalty for indirect fire of -1 to hit, and so the standard 4+ modified roll to hit is still used, so we use exactly the same mechanism, but with a -1 applied because it's indirect fire. That effectively becomes a 5 to hit. So indirect fire is slightly less effective than direct fire, or it will be in terms of the number of hits obtained. However, what compensates is that indirect fire generates lots of attack dice. So the Wesp actually has 3 dice on its attack. So I'm just going to choose this unit here to be my observer, and I'm going to attack this American infantry over here. And again, I'm just going to pick one, and we'll go for this one over here. Now I attack only a single unit. You don't have a template. We kind of looked at that, but it just kind of slows everything down. So the attack is basically onto a single unit. And you roll. I'm going to roll 3 dice, and then we'll see what happens. So as a result of my 3 dice, I have 2 hits onto that unit there, which will cause 2 disorder. Again, we don't roll to kill, but what we are doing here is degrading the ability of the Americans to be able to push forward their attack. And again, I'll now move to the Hummel, which has 4 dice reflecting its larger barrel size, and we will target another unit, and we'll target again adjacent, and again you can use the same or a different unit to act as a spotter for that particular gun. And as a result of my dice rolls there, not terribly good, but I get 1 disorder. Okay, now for my mortar crew, I'm going to do something different. I'm a little concerned that the Americans are going to be able to kind of charge forward, or that they're going to be able to shoot at me. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to lay some smoke down here with my mortar. So again, with smoke, I can use any unit here to act as a spotter for my mortar crew. And what I'm going to do then is just roll 2 dice for the smoke, and I get a +2 bonus to my roll to see if I generate smoke. So again, require a modified 4 or better to hit. So it's -1 because I'm doing indirect fire, +2 because of smoke. So effectively on a 3 plus, I get to put some smoke down. And as a result of that, I've managed to place 1 bit of smoke down. Okay, and that really is as straightforward as it is for the integral units within a formation when they conduct indirect fire. Again, keys to remember: you have to get a single or a double activation to be able to fire. If you get a double activation, you can use the sustained fire to give yourself a +1 on your dice roll to hit. You need modified 4 or more to hit. Each unit targets a single enemy unit. The number of dice are rolled, and for every hit, then you cause 1 disorder to the enemy. All right, so that kind of covers indirect fire within the formation. What we're going to do now is look at indirect fire from an artillery formation. Now, within the formation, within All Hell Let Loose, we generally recommend that a forward observer is placed with each unit, and so here I've placed some German forward observers, and this German forward observer has placed a target marker down here, targeting this American tank formation that is menacing the German trench line. The target marker is absolutely crucial for the artillery formation. Artillery formations can only fire indirectly at either something they can see themselves or at a target marker placed by a forward observer attached to a different formation. So in this case, I have my target placed, and I'm going to use 4 105mm guns, and I'm going to fire at the Americans. However, in order to do that, I have to successfully activate this formation when the dice comes out of the bag. Again, if I roll a partial activation, I am unable to fire indirectly. We also impose a -1 penalty on artillery formations that are off table in terms of their activation, and there's more detail really in the rules about what happens when artillery starts to degrade, or if they get really poor results. This really is just reflecting the fact that artillery formations had to set up, had to dig in, they required ammunition, there would be multiple different calls upon them as for targets, and so this really represents the fact that no commander can consistently expect their artillery to support them. So what we'll assume is that activation has been successful, and that this particular formation has a single activation, and again they are now going to target the American tanks. Now here, dependent on the type of gun, the heavier calibers and the rockets, they can target a single unit within 4 inches of a target point, whereas here, these being a lower caliber gun, I can target a single target with each gun within 3 inches of my target marker. We do not allow within the rules multiple artillery units to attack the same target. Essentially, it is just unrealistic to expect an entire artillery formation to have rained down fire on a single target. It would just be considered a waste of ammunition and just wouldn't be an important target priority given the scale that we're kind of playing at. So if there were only 3 targets within range here, my 4th gun would not be able to fire. But again, the mechanism is exactly the same. Now I'm going to roll dice. I'm making 3 attacks for each of my guns, and I'm going to target this one, this one, this one, and this one. I'm just going to take them in turn. There's no other kind of bonuses, so basically on a 5 or a 6, I will hit these tanks. Oh dear. So we have 3 disorder caused on the first tank that I've attacked. So that's a pretty spectacular result achieved straight off the bat there. One more. If this was an inexperienced American formation, then that would have destroyed that unit. However, these I'm assuming these are regular Americans. One more disorder, and that unit will be destroyed. So move on to my next tank. Again, hitting on a 5-6. The Germans are rolling staggeringly well. 2 disorder. And the next one, all right, just a single disorder. and then finally my last roll just gets a single disorder. And so hopefully what that demonstrates is how artillery can really dent an opponent's ability to initiate an attack, and similarly, if the Americans were to repeat this on the Germans defending here, then you might expect several of those units in this tree line to be disordered, which would give the Americans a significant bonus if they were to actually initiate assault or firing on that formation. And so hopefully what we're encouraging here is artillery to work in a historically realistic way, in that it was used really for softening an opponent and gradually degrading them, rather than necessarily being capable of taking ground. And we really tried very hard with this to ensure that artillery didn't rule the battlefield and you just couldn't shell your opponent to pieces. Hopefully that's a useful overview of how indirect fire works. So again, just confirm, units integral to a formation can fire at a single target and do not require a forward observer. Artillery formations themselves require a target to have been placed prior to their turn by a forward observer from a different formation. And otherwise it's just the standard dice roll with a modified 4 or more resulting in a hit. There is no roll to destroy with artillery. So thank you very much for listening. I'll be posting another video shortly, and this time I'll be looking at assaults. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and post any comments below to let me know what you think. Thank you very much.